the spirit of Unity's online ministry. My name is Reverend Alicia-Leslie. I'd like to begin today with a question. Do you know what the #1 best-selling book of all time is? It's the Bible. Do you know now, second question, what the least read book of all time is? Well, if you said the Bible, you're right again. How can it be that something is the best-selling and least read book? Why buy it? I think it's probably because people like to have a Bible, but they put more importance on owning it and having it for show than actually using it, which is pretty unfortunate because, as Charles Fillmore said, the Bible is the manual for the unfoldment of the human soul. Well, how many times have I said, God, how do I get in this mess? How can I get myself out? I need to know. Tell me now. Well, can you imagine this booming voice coming down from the heavens? Read the instructions. Well, too often we don't read the instructions. Why? Why do you think it is that we don't read this powerful thing? Why are people so turned off by a book that they feel compelled to own? You know, Joyce Meyer said that sitting in a church isn't going to make you holy any more than sitting in a garage is going to make you a car. And reading the Bible without understanding it isn't going to help you on your spiritual path or be that manual for unfoldment of your soul any more than reading a recipe book is actually going to put dinner on the table. What we have to do is not only read the recipes, but do what it's telling us to do. So it's kind of like that with the Bible also. But so we want to look at some of the reasons why people don't actually, read this book and get into it. Well, for one thing, I think it's scary. Frankly, it is scary. When I was a little girl, I was raised in the Catholic Church, and for my confirmation is in the Catholic Church when you are declared to be, an adult and you make your own choice to follow God and to follow the rules and read the Bible and that kind of thing. So I wanted more than anything to get a Bible for my confirmation gift. Some kids wanted money or toys or clothes. I wanted a Bible, and I got my Bible. I got to show it to you. Now, I know that these are my other Bibles. I'm going to show you my confirmation Bible because it's so cute. I know I've showed it to you before. Some of you have seen it already, but I just want to show you how worn out it is. And the cutest thing, though, is that I made it my own because you will see my childish scrawl, name, address, and everything in purple crayon because I'm like that. But I love this book. And I treasured this book, and I was terrified by this book. I couldn't read it. I'd read about, this God that punished and let all these horrible wars happen and stuff, and I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it until one day when I walked into a Unity church, and I learned a whole new way of understanding this book, a way that didn't negate what God was trying to teach, but it proved it. It brought it out. It opened it up, and I was so excited from that day forward. In Unity, we do what we call metaphysical Bible interpretation. We look not only at the words, but as the words on not just a literal basis, but also a moral basis and a metaphysical basis, which is that deep, deep spiritual part that can change your life and mine. Gosh, with such a powerful thing, why aren't we using it, right? We know, like I said, some people are scared. That book scared the daylights out of me. So we want to find a way to get past that. Another thing about the Bible is a lot of people figure it's irrelevant. It doesn't apply to me. That was written thousands of years ago and about totally different people. But you know what? Running through that thread that crossed over from the oral tradition where the teaching was passed down through stories over generation after generation and finally being able to be written down and then scribes would rewrite it and rewrite it. Sometimes something called interpolation occurred, where the scribe felt that they could word it in a way that was more understanding. Doesn't that seem to kind of verify that the book is irrelevant? But the book is relevant because truth is absolute, eternal, and unchanging. We may look at it and see it from different perspectives, but the principles themselves never change. So this is a great way to learn the principles. Okay, what else? It's outdated. Bam, that was years ago. Hey, there's what's happening now. There's all these great things out there now to follow. But you know what? We have to be very, very careful as we're on our path and studying spiritual things. I'm not saying don't read them, don't study them. I got a library that, every time I move, it's like, I got to move all these books again. But I can't let go of them. I did let go of 8 cases. I'm very proud of myself. But I love my books. But we have to, just because something is happening now does not negate a very, very powerful something that happened, before. Now, some people don't want to go near the Bible because they were actually abused by the teachings, not by the teachings, but by someone who translated and interpreted the teachings and slam them onto that person. We call them Bible thumpers. God said it, I believe it, that settles it. Well, you know what? That person that might have caused you pain and suffering because of this teaching, that was their stuff. It wasn't the Bible stuff, it was their stuff. My point in this exciting adventure that I'm going to ask you to join me on this year is to help you to heal that stuff, to get past that stuff. Because I'm going to tell you something. You want to know how to heal your self-esteem and know that you really are a child of God. The best place to start is at the beginning, by coming to understand this great book and everything it has to offer. Psalm 119 verse 105 says, "Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light upon my path." Well, when we look at this, metaphysically, what it's saying is that this teaching, these powerful principles that I am going to learn, that I'm going to be learning and living and practicing and sharing, this teaching is a lamp. It lights my feet. It lights my understanding. Metaphysically, the feet represent understanding, that which you stand on. Wow, wouldn't it be really great to have a really firm foundation to stand on? This I believe, not because somebody told it to me, because I found it within myself. That's what I want to help you do this year, is to find that wonderful truth that is already within you and not to be afraid to learn it and live it and share it, no matter what anybody from the outside tries to, pour into you or make you follow what they say. Because the only true path is the path that God put in your heart. So we're going to help to put that lamp onto your feet, to your understanding, and illumine your path, illumine your way. I'm not saying there's anything inherently with darkness, but when we look at the word darkness as ignorance, we see that if you walk around in the dark, you can fall off a cliff, you can walk into anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to illuminate our consciousness, we're going to light up our mind and light up our heart. So I hope you'll be really excited about joining me on this journey. And don't worry, the Bible's full of sex and violence and wars and love and romance and all kinds of good stuff. I mean, it's one of the most interesting books in the world, and I hope to really excite you and turn you on about it. But the first Bible lesson I want to give you today really isn't going to use any of these books. It's going to use this. What, you say? A deck of cards? And what do I see on the back of those cards? It says Luxor. Isn't Luxor a casino in Las Vegas? Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a magic trick right in front of you. I am going to render unto God that which was Caesar's. The story starts off today, that my Bible lesson story, about one day there was this battle in this particular war was going on, and all the soldiers were out and they fought all day, and there was a lot of losses and pain and suffering and distress. So the chaplain said, "I'm going to do a service for the men tonight." And he set up a tent all ready for the service and told the soldiers to bring in their Bibles. And they all came And during the service, as he was presenting his message to try to inspire and calm and help strengthen the faith of the soldiers, there was this one soldier. And he sat there just fiddling with his deck of cards. Well, let me tell you something. That did not make the chaplain very happy. Good thing, a little notice for you. If you're in church, don't be playing with anything. Don't be fiddling with anything, because when the preacher's preaching, they want to know you're paying attention. I'm just saying. Anyway, he was so annoyed by this young man that was fiddling with the cards. After the service was over, he tapped him on the shoulder. He said, I want you to come to my office. He was prepared to give him a piece of his mind. He probably couldn't afford to spare, but in any event, he got the young man in there, and he said, what is wrong with you? You better have a darn good explanation for fiddling around with those cards when I was trying to help you guys after this horrible battle today, to comfort everybody and to inspire you and help you to remember that God is there. And the soldier said, well, I'm really sorry, sir, but you see, I don't have a Bible. And when I go into battle, the Bible I take with me is this deck of cards. Well, the chaplain's like, what? He said, oh, really? And how is that? And he goes, well, you know, he says the first thing I do is I look at the ace, the one. This card that is the one is more powerful than all the rest. And I would like to tell you that unity's perspective is that there is one presence and one power in the universe and in our lives, God, the good, omnipotent. With each card that I share the soldier's story, I'm also going to give you a little metaphysical Bible lesson. Then he turned up the 2, and he says the 2 reminds me that there is an Old Testament and a New Testament. The testament that Moses brought and the teaching that Jesus brought. And in unity we say, Moses brought the letter of the law, the principles. Jesus brought the heart of the law, the understanding. Because Jesus said, I did not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. He came, what? To help us have enlightenment and understanding about what God is trying to tell us about how to live a good life. He said the 3 reminds me of the Trinity, the 3 phases of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In unity, we acknowledge that Trinity as well as mind, body, soul, also as the creative process, mind, idea, expression. Our mind is our connecting link with God. Through the mind of God, we receive divine ideas, which we then express. Do you see how important it is to find that focus? He says the 4 reminds me that there are 4 Gospels, and that each one of these men had a unique perspective on the same teachings of Jesus, on the same life of this man. And it reminds me that I too have my perspective, and I can learn more about that perspective by studying the 4 Gospels. He said the 5 reminds me of the 5 foolish maidens and the 5 wise maidens. These were the 10 virgins that had gone to meet the groom before the big wedding. And 5 of them did not bring enough oil to last for the vigil till the groom got there. They tried to beg oil from the 5 wise virgins who had the oil, but they would not share because they wanted to have their lamps ready when the bridegroom arrived. And it reminds me and it reminds you that we always want to be prepared. Also, the 5 represents our 5 senses. And it is always important to use our 5 senses very wisely. The 6 represents the 6 days it took for God to create the world. 6 days God worked. And we want to look at each of our 6 work days and say, what wonderful thing did I accomplish this week because we are empowered? And of course he said on the 7th day the Lord rested. And you and I need to rest too. We tend to forget but we do need to rest. So the 7 represents the need to take time to turn away from the world, to listen to a video message, or to go to the church of your choice. He said the 8 reminds me of eternity, because if you look at it sideways, it is the symbol for eternity. I say also, if you look at it vertically, it reminds us that our eternal life is a striving to move continuously upward. And even though we sometimes go back, we then again move forward. He said the 9 reminds me of the 9 lepers that Jesus cured. He cured 10 lepers, but only 1 went back to thank him. This is why it is so important for us to always look at this 9 and remember to be thankful for that which we have given, because we are so blessed. He said the 10 reminds me of the 10 commandments. And likewise in our own lives, these aren't things supposed to be imposed on us. They're exposed within us, because these are flawless lessons in living. He says the jack reminds me that I have a higher being and a lower nature, that I am trying to live as my higher nature. This represents my soul. He says the queen reminds me of Mary, Queen of Heaven. And also, metaphysically, we say in unity that the women represent our emotions, that we have a spiritual side to our emotions, our sensing abilities, and we have our lower emotions, rage, anger, passion, good things, bad things. But we always want to use our higher emotions and be subject to God's will, as Mary did. He said that the king, of course, represents the King of Kings, Jesus. But it also reminds him that Jesus said, these things that I do and even greater things shall you do. And for each one of us, it reminds us that we can have spiritual mastery if we simply strive for it. Then, he says, comes the joker. The joker is the illusionist. It is the appearances that Jesus told us not to judge by. We want to remember that we shall not be tricked by the things we see in life, the circumstances, but we shall seek to understand them. He said in this deck of cards, there are 365 dots representing the 365 days of the year. There are 12 numbers representing the 12 months. There are 4 suits representing the 4 seasons. And there are 52 weeks that represent the 52 weeks of the year. And it reminds us that God is omnipresent every day, every week, every moment of every year. He said, this isn't just my cards. It's my Bible. It's my prayer book. It's my way to touch the heart of God. And it's my almanac. God is everywhere present. And I invite you to think on these things this week and look for the good in every step of every day of the week. I look forward to seeing you again next week, because we're going to take a wonderful step as we start looking at some of the beginning stories and how they apply in your life. Till then, have a great week, and remember, the light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, the power of God protects you, and the presence of God watches over you. Wherever you go, God is, and all is.